Shalom family, Shemani Laya. Thank you for joining me at Unsectarian Wisdom, and as usual, I'm a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Let's go ahead and jump in, family. The navigator who crossed the ice walls. Where are we at today? Hold on. We are at... what chapter we at, man? We're on chapter 10, family. Yeah, chapter 10. The domes, the learning of the worlds beyond the ice walls. Chapter 10. The domes, the learning of the worlds beyond the ice walls. The past of the giants, or giant humans, was hidden forever. Their technology and bones were as sadly hidden and forgotten as the greatness of their history. And new discoveries of giants will be today and in the future simply ridiculed, some even intermingled with beasts that never inhabited these lands. The eternal known lands where their oceans are stained with ancestral blood, which could have changed everything. The custodians made a pact. Never the human of the new reset could know that a force was possible to defeat his invisible colonizer. Hold on, let me read that again. The custodians made a pact. Never the human of the new reset could know that a force was possible to defeat his invisible colonizer. He would not even know this time that there was a force above that controlled his lands and his environment, that made him live an empty life, where the messages would be based on his exploitation of all kinds, his degraded spirit. In this chapter, we will see the origin of the human being, an essential being with infinite spiritual potential, as well as why the other races are interested in him. Those who want to keep them in an almost unbearable oppression, and those who want to make them escape towards their immense spiritual freedom. Is this possible? The previous day had been so important that I had not even fallen into the world of dreams until my body tried to reconcile in a strange night of sky illuminated by that mysterious and huge full moon. It was so hard to sleep that the whole group stayed up until what we imagined was very late, even though we didn't see the sun peek out before finally getting a wink of sleep. Conversations obviously revolved around everything that had been happening to us, but especially the little we had been informed had already fallen like a fierce storm overseas. Our minds by then were mere vessels in search of survival. The storm was the truth that not only fell on our face and plunged into our interior, but also generated the most gigantic waves that made each of us real abruptly. Have they conditioned our minds so much? We repeat it to ourselves over and over again. Is this story real? But how can we doubt this story when we are in the lands behind the ice walls and living with the same ancient giant humans? I think that from so much analysis we passed out until a few hours later. Butler woke us up. We came out of these domes that maintained a strange temperature that seemed to be regulated. It was always cool in there and outside, and heat was sometimes unbearable. There were fruits of all kinds. We had never even seen or tasted most of them. Some vegetation peeping out of the distance also had strange colors that were hard for me to decipher. Shikai was wearing a very colorful and summery dress. Her face was more beautiful in the sunlight. I think several of the group had been enraptured by her mere presence. After breakfast, we were able to have a private chat together with Butler, and Shikai began to tell me other details of the book and the history of the races. Yesterday, I told you about the so-called Old Treaty, which was made between parts of the custodians and the Anunnaki. What were they looking for with that treaty? I dared to ask. I think that this question even came from within me, driven by the same anxiety to know everything. But it also generated the way to what was going to be, without a doubt, a unique conversation. Shikai continued her narrative by saying, William, first you have to know that the custodians and Anunnaki have something in common, and that which unites them is that their technology is primarily based on armaments and military development, because they are colonizers from birth. When they arrive in a certain circle, they look for ways to penetrate it, to see how they can benefit, study the life found there, and if it serves them, they could own it or create different agreements for their benefit in its development. In fact, it is the seed that they implanted in the ancient humans. The custodians are also known for their advanced ships and for being among the few to know the 178 worlds or circles around the known. What's that about the Great Dome? What does it mean? I asked innocently. William, each circle is divided by one or several different domes, depending on what encompasses that circle. This dome is a kind of membrane. Hold on, let me read that again. William, each circle is divided by one or several different domes. Okay. Depending on what encompasses that circle. This dome is a kind of membrane that divides a system. This information is very advanced for the time where you come from. But I imagine you have heard of the cellular theory. These circles, we could roughly compare them to what we call a cell and its plasma membrane. This dome membrane is a wall invisible to our eyes. Although some races can make it out, that divides two systems that are similar or may differ in their totality, but have connections in different parts. What we know from the information taken from the custodians is that all the circles or worlds that are known have some connection between the inner and outer system, except one, which is considered the most important, and which led just to this old treaty between custodians and Anunnaki. You know what's funny? The custodians and it's like the custodians and Anunnaki have a treaty about the celestial lands, just as in this land, all the countries have a treaty about not going to Antarctica or not owning land in Antarctica. Just saying. These races are adept at manipulating environments, as they have sufficient technology to do so within the dome of any known world. These connections between inner and... Oh, just real quick. I just thought about something. I never finished it. What was that show? I think it was on Fox or ABC back in the day. I think it was called Dome. And it was about this town where one day a dome ended up on top of the dome, on top of the town, and the people couldn't escape. You know, and there's this new movie that came out recently too about people who moved to Mars, and they lived in on this farm on Mars, and it was covered by a dome. Just saying, family, a lot of interesting coincidences. These connections between inner and outer worlds are not simple to find, but the races that have managed to get out, and those that base their technological advances both in conquest or in their mission to explore, make long journeys with the reason to gather information from other worlds, also develop different types of systems to find the way to find these entrances and exits more easily. There are also portals that connect different lands, but that is another subject that you will discover throughout your stay outside your homelands, and how much of the technology works here. Is he talking about parallel universes? Maybe. Now that circle that I was telling you about, the 178 known ones, was impossible for them to access, even using the most advanced custodial technology, and this became their obsession. These lands where no one could enter, or at least no one could enter and get out of there alive, are the celestial lands. And as each custodial attempt was thwarted, an agreement was made with the Anunnaki to jointly develop technology that could open the way inside and unveil the mystery of what was there. The reason for their obsession was the rumor that in the celestial lands would be found the secret that would lead to being able to penetrate the great dome that divides the known worlds from the outside. What do you mean by the great dome? The question came from inside me almost without wanting to interrupt, but with anxiety that all this generated in me. Of this great dome, we have very little information that we were able to gather from the custodians. What we know so far is that it would be a great dome that envelops the 178 worlds inside, where the theory goes that no way out or in has ever been found, and there's no information regarding what lies beyond. You know what lies beyond, family? The ether, the great expanse of the creator, nothingness. We can go beyond, but we have to first come to a higher level of understanding. You know, that's what that darkness is on the map, family. Remember, the dome is in the mind of the creator, family. None of this is real. We're in the matrix. So it's infinite. But we first have to rise to a certain level of understanding so that we can get beyond the greater dome. You know, that's once again where that meditation, that studying comes up. You know what I'm saying? Looking at the reality of life, not being caught up in the matrix. You know, not being fooled by the hijack, family. Anyway, let's get back into it. They reached the point where their technology had advanced exponentially, so much so that they were able to pass through the first dome. But another problem arose. The beings that passed through the first dome died, pulverized almost instantly. They found no answer to this and tried in various ways and with the use of various races, but they all died in the same way. Dang, they cold-blooded. Various races, they was probably just sending people in. Later in their extensive study of such lands, they came to the conclusion that within did not exist physical bodies, but a conscious energy, which they called the source, or the source of life. The theory goes that this energy began to perceive the danger of custodial and Anunnaki technology and acted accordingly to safeguard its environment. Then this conscious energy split, taking the body of the 5 masters who gave life to the human being, occupying lands around your home or homelands. They first started with Asgard to the north, a remote place bounded by mountainous areas very difficult to discover. Then as they developed, they took lands in Lemuria, Atlantis, and the center of their lands, which they called Hyperborea, which in turn had a direct connection to the outside world with Asgard, their land of origin, by means of connecting a portal. Ooh, sounds like a Stargate to me. Alright, family. We're going to finish there. And next time we'll be getting into chapter 11. The giant humans and the great Tartarians. Alright, family. Without further ado, I'm a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Alright, family. I'll catch y'all later, family. Be blessed. I enjoyed you.